I want to take you back to that first reading, take you back to the days of this first reading from Isaiah that we heard tonight. So back then, you had tribes of people who were just trying to survive, and they were defending themselves from other tribes who were just trying to survive. And each tribe prayed to their own God and hoped that their God was strong enough to protect them from the other tribe's God. Now, the Jewish people thought that they had the best God, the real God. They were the chosen ones who God had saved over and over again. God was on their side. But then, as we hear in today's reading, God did a new thing. God tells the people of Israel, "You're my servants, but that's not enough. I'm going to make you a light to the nations. I want my light to shine in every corner of the world, not just Israel." This was shocking, in-your-face language to the Jews. Gods were not supposed to say things like that. Gods were supposed to look out for their own tribe. The Jewish people thought that they were the holy ones, while all the other peoples around them weren't. But God says, "I am for everyone, and I want you to show them." So this reminds me a little bit of how the Catholic Church saw itself for many years. The church saw the world divided between the sacred and the profane. The sacred was inside the Holy Church, and the profane was everywhere else. Inside the sacred church, the priests and the nuns did the holy work, and the rest of us lived outside in the unholy, profane world. But then in the 1960s, God does something new. Pope John XXIII shocked everyone when he said it was time to open the windows and doors to the musty church and let in some fresh air. So he called all the bishops of the world together, and he said it was time to update the church. And that turned into the Second Vatican Council. So that council wrote a whole lot of documents over several years period, but their foundational document they named Lumen Gentium, which is Latin for light of the nations. Exactly from this passage. Why? Because they understood the church is not just about, it doesn't exist just to save Catholics inside these doors. The reason the church exists is for us to bring Christ's light outside into the entire world, into every nook and cranny. But how does the church do that? The only way to change the world is from within the world. So those bishops at Vatican II turned it over to the experts, us, the lay people. Yes, the bishops actually say in this document that we are the experts for how to bring Christ's light into the world, where we live, where we work, where we raise our families. We are the ones who have to bring the light to the tech companies and the corporate headquarters and the school board meetings and restaurants and medical centers, you name it. So how do we do this, and what does it look like? Let's look at 3 ways that God calls us to be servants to bring light to the world. The first is person to person. That's keeping our eyes open for situations where God can use us to bring someone some comfort or strength or peace, or to be a listening ear in a dark or a difficult situation. And there's plenty of day-to-day opportunities for us to do that. Thinking here of my husband's 70-year-old Uncle Daniel. He still works the same job he has worked in his entire life. He works in a hospital cafeteria where he wipes tables, he refills ketchup containers, and he refills salt and pepper shakers. I saw him on New Year's Day and I asked him if retirement is in the near future for him. Well, he told me, I didn't know this, but part of his job, besides refilling these things in the cafeteria, is that he also delivers meal trays to patients on his shift. And he told me he's worried that if he retires, no one else in his department will stop to take the time to listen to a patient if they need to talk. According to him, the other staff members go into the room, leave the tray, and get out as fast as they can. But if Daniel notices that a patient is lonely or scared, he'll stay for a few minutes and listen to them. I said to him, "Daniel, you are ministering to these patients." And he said, No, I'm just listening to them if they're a little bit scared. That is how Daniel is being God's servant. He is shining light one person at a time. Second way God can use us to bring light is to the systems of the world. Sometimes the system is the problem, and that's where we need to be working. Some people look at the big picture and they work for social justice on the macro level. A hospital administrator might ensure that people like Daniel have that breathing room so that they can listen to the patients. Other people who have power and influence in a particular organization, they can use that power to help make the organization more just or kind. Board members can use their leverage to advocate for fair hiring policies or help to make sure the gig workers are paid a living wage. Even if you're not in a position of particular power, we can all influence the system. We can make suggestions how to improve our workplaces. We can be thoughtful about what we buy, where we buy it. We can be thoughtful about how we vote. That's all systemic work, and that's shining God's light. The final way we can bring light is simply by doing the work that we are called to do well, whether it's raising kids, going off to a job, using your retirement in service to others, or being a full-time student. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven will pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. I believe my 8th grader and my 5th grader have just as much responsibility to bring light to their classrooms as I have to bring light into the world. My 94-year-old great uncle has a responsibility to bring light to the world from his nursing home now. God called all of us to be servants. So what's most important is to think about where you're planted now, to realize how you're already shining light, and perhaps how you could shine your light even brighter. If you work in a hospital cafeteria, you don't have to become a surgeon to shine your light. If you are a surgeon, you shine your light in the operating room. If you're a musician, you use your music to serve God. If you're a stay-at-home parent, you use your time and your energy to serve God. God needs us, and God needs our expertise. Father Leo is a very talented man, but he doesn't know how to raise children or fill a cavity or write software code. So we get to do those things in God's service. So this week, where is God calling you to shine light?
Amen.